Thanks for tuning into the Cork Creative Podcast. With this podcast, we hope to promote creative people and businesses in Cork. To learn more about the podcast, visit corkcreative.ie. Flux Learning is a company fueled by caffeine. We take our coffee seriously. So for our fourth series, we took the opportunity to broaden our knowledge and learn some insights into the coffee roasting industry in Cork City and County. Today we are joined by Badger Dodo's Brock Lewin in his aromatic roastery outlet on Barrack Street. Brock developed baristing skills and learned the art of coffee roasting in Melbourne before moving to establish Badger Dodo in 2008 on his wife's parents' farm in Fermoy. Badger and Dodo were one of the first specialty roasters in Ireland. They only source and roast current crop seasonal coffee graded at 85 points or more out of 100. So sit back, relax and enjoy a fresh brew as we discuss the origin of the company, from picking a name to establishing their brand identity, flavour profiles and business ethos. We discuss getting the basics right, their focus on quality, and Brock's belief that it's best to let the coffee do the talking. So you're very welcome to Cork Creative, Brock.
Thanks, Geraldine.
So Badger and Dodo is a unique name. Can you tell us a little about how the name and brand came about?
Yeah, sure. I started up in 2008, moved back here from Melbourne. I was struggling for a name for a little bit, and I found out that the father-in-law's nickname was Dodo when he was a young boy. His brother couldn't say Dave properly, he says Dodo, and he's known around the area as Dodo.
Okay.
And my own name, Brock, is Irish for Badger. And seeing we were setting up the roastery on his property, I thought a little bit of a tip of the hat to him to say thanks. Little did he know that it was going to end up on the radio.
Yeah. But it's such a cool and a strong name, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the double barrel name. It's not something I realised or thought of. I just went with our gut or what sounded good.
Yeah.
There were other names sort of floating around, but they were all a bit clinical. So a bit of fun as well, a bit of mystery, a bit of intrigue. It worked. Seems to have worked.
Do you think it reflects your personality?
Yeah. Well, we often joke about badgering people, and and Dodo himself was a chicken farmer, so there's a bit of a connection there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And how did you get involved in coffee roasting?
I was in Dublin from 2000 to 2003, and the coffee scene was really non-existent. And I'd already worked as a barista before that in the 90s to get me through uni kind of thing. And so then when I went back to Melbourne from 2003 to 2008, I was quite involved in the coffee scene, living and working off Chapel Street in Prahran. And I was managing a pub there that was on Chapel Street and had big bifold doors that opened up, and you had to have a coffee scene you had to be in the trade in order to keep your daytime trade, So we were quite involved in coffee. And then I left the pub and I managed a cafe or two. And I knew I was coming back here. I met my Irish wife and I was going to either roast or open a cafe. I wasn't sure if the coffee scene had developed here. So I learned to roast in Melbourne and did courses and did one-on-one roasting with a guy called Bruno Malo from C for Coffee in Melbourne. And then the rest was just history, really, Yeah.
So it was kind of like you were kind of at the start of the wave, really, weren't you, of the whole phenomenon that has kind of become coffee in here in Ireland anyway?
Yeah, so we are what you call speciality coffee roasters. Speciality is a term that gets thrown around a lot, but it's coffee that has been Q graded at 80 points or more out of 100. A Q grader is like a sommelier is to wine, a Q grader is to coffee. Two of Ireland's first two Q graders worked for me in the years gone. And so we've always been very passionate about speciality. Stephen Morrissey, Ireland's only world barista champion, happened to win the World Barista Championships just as I came and set up in Ireland in 2008. And so that was really the start of the speciality scene in Ireland. It developed a lot more after that, obviously, and quicker. There was one or two other roasters around at the time, micro roasters, let's say. But I've always been a champion of speciality coffee. Yeah.
And does it annoy you when, people maybe brand themselves a speciality when they're not really?
I think I'm a bit past that now, and you do see people, give their coffee scores, and you're just like, well,
Who scored that?
yeah, who scored that,
I'm great, yeah.
Yeah. Now, mind you, I have no Q graders on team at the moment, but Jacob, my GM, has, and myself, and Pa, my roaster, we're our cuppers, and between us, we've got something like 25 years of proper coffee experience. So, and we always cup pretty well. We always cup a blind cup, but we always seem to fall around the same outcome ourselves.
Okay.
So I think over time and practice, you do develop the palate. Developing a palate in coffee definitely takes time and practice.
And how did you develop your brand identity?
Well, my wife, Claire, enters the scene here. She went to NCAD in Dublin, National College of Art and Design in Dublin. I was a barman in Dublin from 2000 to 2003. She was a student, and she just had the knack, the look, the feel. She does all our graphic design, and now we have had advice and sort of standardization from experts along the way, but she's always been the full drive and core of that. I had a very masculine kind of look, and she rightly sort of plucked that and said, no, that won't do. And so, us being quite opposites, she brought the arty sort of edge to it. And I guess like any brand identity, it evolves over the years. And I think she's done well there.
A good partnership. So
and she continues to do, like, the new drip boxes we've put out there are just, I think they're fantastic. So good partnership.
Very good,
in many respects. Yeah.
And where do you source your beans?
So I called ourselves a boutique coffee roaster at the start because I wanted to give the idea that we sell a lot of one-off coffees, like a woman's boutique might, and so one-off clothing, So, of course, this has been abbreviated to Badger and Dodo. So we really source anywhere that we find is great at that particular point. It's seasonally fresh. We're never old crop. Always 85 plus. It's a mantra we've picked up, and you'll see it in our marketing, 85 plus. So it's always all definitely specialty coffee. In our mainstay offerings for espresso in the cafes we supply around the country, we've got Brazil Fazenda Recreo, and I went there in 2018, visit the farm, and we import directly from Brazil there. Actually, we had a container come in the other day. So it comes directly from Port of Santos into Port of Cork, which is a great thing for Ireland, for freshness, for reduced carbon emissions. It allows us a better price, so we get a better quality coffee. Leo Varadkar came to the roastery a few years ago, and it was that Brexit was happening and Theresa May was still at the helm. And I think I said to him, Brexit, bring what Brexit may. We're no longer using the UK.
Very good.
Yeah, it was a nice little cash grab for the moment.
Yeah.
But it's great for local economy as well. So Brazil is the main origin. Fazenda Recreo specifically we have put on the map. Then, I'm always a big fan of Ethiopian coffees. I've always stocked a washed yoga chefri from day one. That was my go-to speciality. And then it's really whatever the current crop is. And it can be East Africans or Central Americans. We don't really do much Asian. We just found them too full-bodied, too earthy for speciality palate.
Okay. So, does the climate, what's happening with, say, climate change, does that impact on your decision-making now going forward, or...?
It does. And certainly in regards to, say, like supply, there was issues there with Colombia last year. So we've tried to move away from Colombian. Now we do bring that in for special customers who are on the Colombian, but the Colombian in particular has become very expensive. In regards to considerations, the coffee market suffered a huge price increase there about 3 years ago. This is a global thing with coffee. Yeah. There were major frosts in Brazil, unseasonal frosts drove the price up for coffee, and everyone was affected. And I think when price is affected, we're all, you can't help but be affected.
supply and demand is always going to be there. I suppose there's always going to be an issue. If there's an issue with the source, it's going to affect the end customer.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
And it's, I suppose, probably trying to come up with contingency plans just to try and deal with that. Or do you have to do, is it kind of like spur of the moment kind of thing?
Yeah, you do have contingency plans, like, for instance, our Blackwater blend, the Colombian was a component in that. So, we might reduce the amount of Colombian that's involved and increase the Guatemalan or Peru.
Okay.
There's subtle changes to the blend that most people wouldn't be able to detect at all. And managing a blend is part of what a roaster does. You're never going to have 100% consistency because, nature, it's a crop of nature. I
suppose that's just part of, like variety is, it's just part and parcel of the product. If you want something that's the consistent 100% all the time, buy something in a jar that you can get.
Yeah, exactly. You just can't control nature. You can't control the sun and the rain.
Yeah. Okay. And how would you describe the flavor profile of your coffee and individual coffee varieties?
Blackwater blend is our most well-known blend. We medium roasts, I guess, is what you would say, for our espresso blends. And then typically for something which would be a seasonal coffee, we would go more towards medium light, because we know that it's going to be brewed at home. A feature of speciality is trying to enshrine or captivate acidity in a coffee. I believe acidity brings flavor to the fore. Unlike your first or second wave coffees, like your traditional Spanish, Portuguese, French coffees, a bit darker roasted, and people are looking for that real coffee hit. They might have 20 or 40% Robusta, be darker roasted. You would need to put sugar with that. That would be a completely separate cup profile to what speciality roasters would go for. So our Blackwater blend is very pleasing across most spectrums. Our Brazilian would have a little bit more acidity than most people would expect within a cup of Brazilian. You might expect, say, nutty, chocolatey flavors in your Brazilian. We would have that, but we might also have a bit of an uplift through, say, some orange acidity, for instance, or maybe slight lemon. In a refined cup situation, you'd pick that up. Whereas our jam jar in 2016, I had great fun. I went to Portland, Oregon, hired myself a convertible Mustang and drove down the west coast of America, researching cafes and cup profiles. But of course, that part, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, where Starbucks was founded, is a huge coffee mecca, one of them in the world. And I came across natural Ethiopians there, which we had been using at the time. Natural Ethiopians, a lot of people think that it's a coffee that's left out to dry and ferment in the sun, very funky stewed fruit kind of profile. And when we first started selling it, people were sending it back saying it's off, it's rotten, there's something wrong with this. The market clearly wasn't ready for it. But what I discovered there in Portland was that if you blend it down, then it can give really good sweetness to a blend. So our jam jar imbibes that, and fairy floss is another one. It's mixed with a natural process and a washed process. A washed process will really enshrine acidity like a fragrant orange, bergamot, jasmine, and you mix that with strawberryness of a funky, natural Ethiopian. It's a beautiful combination.
Okay. You're obviously very passionate about coffee, and it's obviously still a learning journey as such. You're still learning, you're still going on your trips and finding out new things about coffee as such. It's always going to be something.
Yes. One thing I learned about coffee in Australia is that it is a dynamic industry, that it is always changing. Now, sometimes there's reinvention for the sake of it, like the deconstructed cappuccino. I don't think I'll ever want to serve that up in my coffee, where you get the espresso and then you get the milk and you get the foam and you build your own. That's one fad I won't try. But it is important to keep exploring and having fun. Like our drip bags that we've just brought out, I think they're a great thing. Before that, I brought out a Discover Coffee series, where you might taste the same coffee processed, say, 3 different ways, or 3 coffees from the same farm, or the same farm with 3 different coffee varietals, all processed the same way. So you're trying to get people to understand coffee in different ways. It's a bit complex for the average person. And a lot of these projects that we call, they don't really make financial sense.
Yeah.
We definitely lost money on some of them, but it's something to do. And it's just another way to keep researching or developing or being involved in the industry, because otherwise it's just too much like work.
Yeah. Keep the interest going and such.
100%. And you never know. You find something, you discover something along the way, or I'm looking forward. We've got an Origin trip lined up next year to Guatemala, which will happen around about February. And we're going over there to visit a supplier of ours. Actually, container just came in the other day from Guatemala. And this is a very long time broker that we've been dealing with. Her father owns some processing mills in Guatemala. It's Third Wave Coffee Source. Hi, Nadine. So we're looking forward to going over there. And she's been fabulous with us over the years. And I've seen her develop from quite a small stage. And she came out to the roastery and had a look around. And it's great to follow people through the industry over the years. Even the famed Colin Harmon do 3FE and see him swim to dizzying heights, and old customers of mine like Cloud Picker or Roasted Brown or Bean and Dingle or Red Strand, Coffee Culture. There's a lot of these guys who are my own customers, and see them go out on their own and do well is great. I think I was interviewed in a radio session years ago when I was trading at the farmers market at the Point Village. Used to drive up to Dublin for the Point Village market.
Yeah.
And they got hold of me and I went in for an interview. I said, there's loads of room for more roasters, and the industry's just opening. And, within a year I'd lost half a dozen customers off roasting. But, more the merrier.
Careful what you wish for, though.
I know. But no, it's all good. I don't want to grow for the sake of growth. I just want to do what I do it well, and enjoy the business, look after our wholesale customers. I'm not pushed on growing for the sake of it. I don't want to grow the company too much. It just gets out of control. At the moment, one of my goals is, we're developing our technical support department. So, we've got Simone. He's born of a coffee roaster. His brother's a coffee roaster. He's gone the machine route, and he's just expert in machinery. And look, it's beans, machines, baristas. Other than that, the only other thing is water. So, and we address every component, but it's amazing how often machinery lets people down. Not changing your blades, your burrs on your grinder, not keeping your water filter up to date, even just proper cleaning of the machine. So, Simo, and with the help of Ocean, another guy we've got training up in the department, we're rolling out preventative maintenance programs to make sure that our customers are keeping on top of their machinery, because it is so important as well.
I suppose the basics are, it's quite simple, as you say there, about the beans, the machine, the water, they're the basics, and you have to have them right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, when I came here, no one was doing flat whites. And it was so hard to try to train people up on flat whites. Training is so important. It's important that they can do the milk right, I don't really care about latte art. So long as the shot is dialed in, so long as the milk is at the right temperature and the right foaming consistency, getting these training essentials across is of vital importance. There's nothing worse than an owner who puts in charge a manager but doesn't keep their staff up to date.
Yeah. And
then a new manager comes along and they don't bother checking them for their coffee skills. And that can happen in places where coffee isn't that important. Like if we supply a gastro pub, but that's not endemic to Ireland. That was certainly a thing in Australia as well. I worked in a restaurant and I was always on the coffee machine. It was great when I was working, but then other people would jump on and, you've got to keep up your skills that way.
Okay. So you mentioned there that there are many coffee roasting companies out there. How would you describe the market? Is it collaborative?
I think it's definitely getting to saturation. It used to be such that I would know the other roasters and, we could chat to each other and I still do. I have a great relationship with some roasters. But I guess, now there's well over 100 roasters in Ireland. It's getting a little bit competitive. And we have account managers, who are designated staff who are trained in coffee to work in particular areas. There's one in Dublin, one in one in Leinster, one in Munster, Connacht. And, when they go out to visit our customers and see how they are, they will find bags from other roasters who have been in there to try to poach the accounts or try to win the accounts, and all is fair in love and war. But it never really used to be that way, And I'd certainly have respect now, say, for like other roasters in town, I wouldn't, we don't need to go looking for new accounts. I do understand if you're a new roaster and you're trying to make your way, you need to do that. So I think I'd say it's collaborative amongst the older guard, or the older guys, but maybe these new punks are upsetting their status quo. Go for it, As I say, you look after your customers and you do a good job and you just do business and do it the best you can. And, I think your reputation stands above all.
Given the marketplace, how did you define yourself when you first started out? Was it that, building up a good reputation, as you just said?
Yeah, 100%. It was all about just doing a good product and being able to provide everything that your customer needs. So, we've developed a range of peripherals, sell the machinery, sell the new grinders, stay abreast of new machinery as it comes out. Yeah, it was always 100% about just good name and reputation and trying to develop it that way. Word of mouth is all I didn't actually advertise ever until the pandemic came. And we were like, well, what are we going to do here? Our wholesale customers can't open. And then all of a sudden we saw online taking off a bit, and we just redeveloped our website. It was very good timing. So our online sales just went crazy. And then we realized that with a little bit more marketing, it would work even more. And then I kind of been swayed a little bit about marketing. It's not so much about selling hard and saying you're the best and buy our stuff, but it's also a little bit about letting people know that you're there. And like I really don't want to push ourselves in front of anyone's face, or down their throats. But it's funny years later, and you find that people still don't know about you. Badger Dodo, you're in Fermoy? I live in Fermoy. I never knew you were there. Where are you? And that conversation would happen, despite that we do farmers markets and things around town. We've got 2 cafes in town. There's always new generations of people coming through. So you do have to tell the story a little bit. You can't just survive on word of mouth alone, I think,
Well, I suppose, as you say, it's not probably about the hard sell. It's just letting people know that you're there and letting the product speak for itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have trends like cold brews affected your approach to roasting?
Yeah, not as such really, because the demand for cold brew really isn't there at the moment. In North America, it's a major project that they undertake every year. Even places like Wendy's Donuts will sell cold brew. We tried it a few years ago and we were bottling it and we were throwing half of it out. But this year it has taken off a bit more. But there's a difference between cold brew and iced lattes and iced Americanos. Iced lattes and iced Americanos can be made in the espresso machine. Cold brew has to be infused through a special process. And then it's a concentrate, which you then water down. It's kind of like the flat white of cold coffees. So, there's just not the demand there for it as such.
But it's so yummy.
Yeah.
Says the one who's just after gulping her one down.
Yeah. Well, you can still, though, play with the variables in coffee to use it in cold brew to make it work. And that's one of the good things about cold brew is that you can, or about coffee in general, is there's so many variables. You can make some of them consistent and play with the others, like grind size, contact time, water temperature, brewing device, agitation. So you can modify these to find something that suits your palate. And we've all got different palates. I used to really like natural coffees. When they first came out, I thought they were fantastic. Now I'm very tired of them. And then anaerobic came out. It's been quite a fashion for a couple of years. And there's some great ones. And then there's some there that are just done for the sake of it. And I'd be like, my God, that just does not even taste like coffee. So it's, there's lots of variables in coffee. And that's one of the exciting things I find about it.
Some trends are good, I suppose. It's like everything. Some trends are good and some trends not so good.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's important to keep your own mind open because what you like may change as well. For instance, when I'm drinking whiskey, I loved a peated whiskey when I first started getting into whiskey. Now I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I've got to have a really crisp, grassy, something pot stilled, and the same with your wines and your beers and
Would your palate overall have changed for all those kind of things? Do you think your palate has become more, I suppose, fine-tuned because of the nature of the work that you do?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. We've been going 15 years now, and I'd say 12 years ago, I was still looking for a full-bodied, and we used to do Sumatra Gagaring. It was really famous with us, a real orangey, chocolatey orange, and it sold so well. But my palate changed and started picking up a lot of the light acidity-based jasmine, bergamot, orange coffees, and to me, specialty coffee really did at least back then, was really about understanding acidity and coffee and understanding the difference between that and bitterness. And so as a result, I got rid of the Sumatra and Gagaring, even though it was a really good seller for us. It was a hard decision to do that. And I know we disappointed a lot of our fans, but we had to take them on that journey. I felt, that I had some sort of a certain responsibility to really try to portray this worldwide movement of appreciation of lighter roasted coffees,
Do you think the decision has paid off?
Yeah, sure. I know no other outcome, but we do fine. And I'm quite proud of the way that the company has grown. And yeah, it is. It's good when you do get customers who do appreciate, when you bring out a new coffee and you look at how much it sells, or you take a bit of a gamble on something a bit more expensive and the customers pick it up. And yeah, it's rewarding when that happens,
Okay. Do you find your sales are affected by seasonal factors? Like, for example, has the recent good weather impacted you, and do customers favor lighter flavor profiles in the summer?
Yeah, that's the way I always used to try to portray it anyway. We do a winter blend, a Christmas blend, and that will always be a lot more full-bodied. We would tend to go that way, and we would look for more Christmassy sort of notes in it. But then again, we just brought out a coffee, Las Brumas, for Father's Day because it was very unusual coffee. It's got notes of leather and cinnamon and tobacco because we thought that would be sort of your traditional dad profile. Mightn't be a modern dad's profile, but we had to go for some sort of a profile, and that's what we chose. But yeah, you're looking for a lighter summer base, like you drink a cider in the summer, you drink a stout in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. If you had to have to pick your favorite coffee, what would it be?
Oh, it's Ethiopian, a washed Ethiopian, 100%. I've always stocked it right from day one. It was one of the first coffees, if not the first coffee I put into the roaster I had then. I always love it. And to me, I mean, specialty coffee is really very diverse. But if there's any one coffee for me that defines specialty coffee, that would be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also run a coffee academy and have your own blog. Is this as a result of the surge in interest in coffee over the last few years?
No. Yes, no. Yeah, look, the academy was something that we wanted to set up here. So we had a place for our wholesale customers to come and train up. Often new wholesale customers we bring on board, they're new. They're setting up a new cafe. And they don't have the facilities set up ready to go. So we bring them in here and we train up their staff here beforehand. We have the online courses as well. The blog, I think I was told I had to have it to get website. But, the blog has worked out well because I was reading an interesting thing in there about Last Kingdom. And there's this really interesting how they're learning to write and how they're recording the way buildings. So much knowledge has been lost over time. And, and we realized that we were taking on these so-called projects, when we put the reverse osmosis water system in here to Barrack Street Cafe 2 or 3 years ago, water was really in what we thought at that stage was really peak in the industry and how important water is to coffee. So it's a reverse osmosis system, and it remineralizes for the ideal water to extract coffee into water. So, but that's heavy knowledge. And it's not the sort of knowledge I want in my head all the time, so that's where the blog comes in very handy, to put that information out there. I think it's also good from a historical perspective as well to go back and see, look what I was doing back then, and it has built up over time. I don't know how up to date it is at the moment. It's been a while since I read my own blog, but I know it rolls on.
I think it's a good idea just to get people to get a feel for you, and it's a good way to represent yourself, I think, and represent the company.
Yeah,
personal opinion, because I like looking at blogs like that.
Right, yeah. So now I must get onto that now.
Giving you a job to do, homework to do.
There's always that.
The US comedian Dennis Leary derided the shift away from flavoured coffee in his sets. Is adding a syrup or flavouring to your coffee akin to adding a mixer to a top shelf whiskey?
Yeah, comments, guys like that are obviously saying more about themselves, aren't they? Yeah. Really, that they are not able to appreciate the finer things in life. A bit of a sledgehammer comment, but we have never, ever sold syrups. There was always a market there for us to sell them. People always want them. We have never sold them. We don't have them in our own outlets. It's about the coffee. Yeah, it's about the coffee. Ballymaloe Literary Food Festival. We get on great with Ballymaloe. I've always been a big fan of Darina Allen. The shop out there was one of the first to stock our retail coffee, and we share the Saturday market with them at Middleton. And so we did the Ballymaloe Literary Food Festival, it was years ago, and we bought this Kenyan, paid through the roof for it, And, we set up, our friends at Marco loaned us a lovely piece of brewing equipment, and we went out there and set it up, and we brewed this coffee and we gave it away to people. And it broke my heart. The people asking for milk and sugar, and this guy says, no, sorry, no milk, no sugar. It's free, take it or leave it kind of thing, Yeah. So, and it was all about, can you taste the blackberry? And it's a bit of an education, but that's what that Literary Food Festival was about, So, we're very thankful for the festivals and markets they're a very important part of any small business coming to the fore. Now, it can be very hard, and for a lot of companies, it's just turned into a marketing or money-making exercise. But I believe the markets are really where you go to try your product, to bring it to the market, to get up and going. And I did this originally at Fermoy Market under Dave Ryan there, who has the Amber service station in Fermoy. And Dave was a big part in me getting up and going. I was roasting my coffee, taking it to that farmer's market and testing and trialing it. And I had my baristing skills, but it was all about, just trying to fine tune my roasting, And I know there are other roasters like Reg Strand down in Clonakilty. Shane takes his coffee to the market there. And even our friends around the corner here at Molly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Cafe Molly around the corner here. And, Daniel's done a great job there of roasting in cafe and serving up different types of coffee that way. Fabulous like that, So, but festivals and markets, when you don't have your own little cafe to serve it out in,
it's a good way to start, isn't it? A good base to kind of see if this is going to turn into a successful, viable business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even we're still doing it to this day. We've got a pop up there in Photo at Wildlife Park, and this cold brew that we're drinking, we're going to bottle that up, put it in there as a ready to go, grab off the shelf thing, because the ice machine out there can only do so many ice.
What a great idea for all the parents. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Go play. Let me drink my cold brew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very good.
And it's cold on in this weather. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Brock, on the podcast today. If you want to learn more about Badger and Dodo and their fantastic coffee, you can find more on corkcreative.ie.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.